I call on members' orders of the day, numbers 1 and 2.
Parental Leave and Employment Protection 6 months Paid Leave Amendment Bill, Committee stage. Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill, Committee stage.
A point of order, David Seymour.
Speaker, I seek leave for the order of the day for the consideration by the Committee of the Whole House of the Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill to be discharged and the bill referred back to the Government Administration Committee, and for the committee to have the power to consider and, if it thinks fit, adopt the amendments set out on Supplementary Order Paper number 181.
Is there any objection to that course of action?
Yes.
Yes, there is. I declare the House in committee for consideration of the Parental Leave and Employment Protection 6 months Paid Leave Amendment Bill and the Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill. Mr Chairman.
Mr Speaker. Members, the House and Committee on the Parental Leave and Employment Protection 6 months Paid Leave Amendment Bill and the Official Information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries Amendment Bill. We turn first to the Parental Leave and Employment Protection 6 months Paid Leave Amendment Bill, and the question is that Part 1 stand part. This is debate on clauses 4 to 18 and Schedule 1. Point of order, Councillor Sibiloni.
I seek leave, Mr Speaker, for this to be taken as one part.
One question.
One question.
Yeah. Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is objection. So, order. 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 I'm dealing with the matter. Will the member please be quiet? I'm ruling on this matter. Now, the question is that Part 1 stand part. This is clauses 8 to 18 and Schedule 1.
Mr Chair.
I call Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Chair. It's with a sense of strong deja vu that I rise to take a call on Part 1 of the Parental Leave and Employment Protection 6 months Paid Leave Amendment Bill. And it is my sincere hope that we don't see a repeat of what we saw last time around. The use of the filibuster against a bill that is aimed to actually support families and children, I thought was particularly ugly last time around, and only accentuated by having to listen to speech after speech after speech from Mike Sabin telling us how to parent responsibly.
Order. I'm going to start by interrupting the member and reminding her that this is a debate on this bill, on this part, and it is a narrow debate. Referring to previous bills and previous debates is out of order. Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Thank you for that guidance. I will now address Part 1, which is the part that actually tells the country about how affordable this bill really is, because as the member promoting the bill, I've worked hard to make sure that it is affordable for the country, and Part 1 expresses that because what it does is it doesn't say let's get to 26 weeks paid parental leave tomorrow or even next year. What Part 1 does is it says let's implement this in a staged way that is affordable for the country by increasing paid parental leave on the 1st of April next year to 22 weeks. And that is effectively what Part 1 does. And the Select Committee did a lot of work on ensuring that we got agreement and we got good official advice on what the cost of taking that staged approach to implementing extended paid parental leave would be. Very important in this debate, Mr Chair, because of the threat of a financial veto that hangs over the head of this bill. So I do want to take a little bit of time to share with the House and with the country what the costings were, because they show how affordable it is. The officials told us that for the financial year we're about to enter into, that's the financial year 2016 to 2017, that the effect of this bill would be a gross cost of $12.7 million for the next budgetary year. So that is the impact of Part 1 on the budgetary year that we've just finished debating in this Parliament. I note that because it in fact equates to only 0.7% of the additional spending that this government has already committed to the budget for 2016-17. 0.7%. Now that is no justification for a threat of a financial veto, when the government has already seen fit to pour $1.8 billion additional spending into the next year's budget, and this bill would just take 0.7% of that additional funding to fund it. So it's clearly not an issue about unaffordability, because the government is spending in that same budgetary year, spending $12 million on new charter schools. You know, those charter schools that are failing, the ones where the people operating the charter schools, when it fails, they get to keep the taxpayer money. That's $12 million in the next budget year on that initiative, when this bill would cost the same amount. But this bill would actually impact on 30,000 babies and their families in the next 12 months, because that is the estimated number of families that will be using paid parental leave in that budgetary year. 30,000 families will benefit from this. So that $12.7 million, in Labor's view, is a great investment in the future of this country, because we know that if we can extend, in the first instance, paid parental leave to 22 weeks, as Part 1 asks, by the 1st of April next year, then those children will have that ability to get that bonding and attachment going well between parent and baby. That if the mother has already established a great breastfeeding regime, that won't be interrupted by having to go back to work through financial constraints. And that, Mr Chair, is going to be to the benefit of us all. Because the other thing the officials gave us advice on at the Select Committee was that when we get those things right, we save money in a whole lot of areas. And in fact, what they told us was that we are going to save immediately $28 million as a country, immediately, if we implement this bill. So that's cost savings on things like not having to spend taxpayer money on early childhood education subsidies, paying for someone else to look after those children rather than mum or dad, Mr Chair. Mr Chair?
No, Sue Moroney.
The taxpayer paying for other people to look after those children, as this government would have it, rather than mum or dad being able to be at home on extended paid parental leave, able to get that bonding and attachment happening, able to actually make sure that the bills were getting paid, that the financial stress was not so great on the family, and all those things that submitters came and told us about at Select Committee. Mr Chair, one of the things that really stood out to me this time round in the Select Committee process and the submissions, and why we do need to get to 22 weeks paid parental leave by the 1st of April next year, is that families came and told us that this generation are having to make decisions between whether they save to buy a house or whether they have a baby. Those are the sorts of decisions that people in well-paid jobs are now having to make under John Key's New Zealand. Under John Key's New Zealand, housing prices have increased so much that the families are needing to make those decisions.
Now, I am going to remind the member again, this is a narrow debate. The House has accepted at the second reading the principle of this bill. All we are debating is whether these clauses implement the principles that the House has agreed to. Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. So 22 weeks is what we're seeking in Part 1 of the bill. It is part of the stepped approach and the approach of making this affordable so that we can get to 26 weeks, but we'll talk about that more in Part 2. Mr Chair, Part 1 should be supported by parties right across this Parliament. I look forward to hearing the further debate on that, and I look forward to hearing votes in support of this important measure and this important investment in New Zealand's future.
Dr. Parmjit